Today's Mass in downtown Toronto was made in honor of the victims of Canada's residential school system, as well as the impacts it's had on people across the country. An apology from Cardinal Collins was also offered. A much different scene right now, though. It's quiet, but earlier today, a much somber scene throughout the day as those stopping by to mourn the 215 children expressed anger, saying the Catholic Church and our governments need to do more than just apologize.
We wish to apologize in a very particular way for the instances of physical and sexual abuse that occurred in those schools.
A morning mass from Cardinal Thomas Collins offering a prayer for Indigenous peoples. All those who died were abused and continue to be impacted by the residential school system.
We wish to state publicly that we acknowledge they were inexcusable, intolerable, and a betrayal of trust in one of its most serious forms.
The Archdiocese of Toronto, the largest home to 2 million Catholics and 225 churches, saying it did not operate residential schools, but acknowledging the role the church played.
I don't think the Catholic groups should have agreed to the invitation of the government to operate these places, because although they may have thought they can have some benefit of preaching the gospel or whatever, at the heart of who we are is the family. And taking kids away from their families is that's just not right.
Outside St. Michael's Cathedral Basilica, a growing vigil for the 215 children who were recently discovered at a mass gravesite at the Kamloops Residential School. Some telling CityNews they are frustrated with the lack of action from the government and church to address its treatment of Indigenous peoples, what's been referred to as cultural genocide.
I think it's important for everybody to take action. Not just the Pope, he holds a position, but every single individual citizen of this land has power. We all have power with our voices.
Across the pond earlier this morning, Pope Francis expressed sorrow over the residential school deaths, but fell short of an apology, calling for reconciliation and healing.
I don't want to comment on church leaders. I think they've dropped the ball long enough. I'm focusing on my Indigenous friends and community and what they need, what we all need to do as settlers of immigrants.
Asked if the Pope should issue an apology, Cardinal Collins says the Catholic leader expressed grief, sorrow, and prayer for what happened.
He's our spiritual leader in that way, but the Catholic Church is on the ground. And with the religious orders and with dioceses, that's, I think, where this needs to grow. And sometimes it's doing better, sometimes not, but that's where we need to put our energy and time.
Lisa Patterson says it's time for the labor to be taken on by non-Indigenous peoples instead of the people who have been suffering. She was one of two tying orange ribbons around the front gates this morning, reinforcing the calls for actions to the federal government and Catholic Church cited in the Truth and Reconciliation documents.
Just to make my presence known that I, as a dweller of Toronto, that I am ashamed of the way the church and the government have not acted yet.
And after COVID-19, Cardinal Collins expressed interest in having Indigenous leaders and bishops meet with the Pope. Now the focus is on the calls to inspect residential schools across Canada. How many mass graves do we have here? And more daunting, will there be more remains located?
We need to know more about them, and we need to, at each one of them, have a proper recognition and honor for the children who died. And the great tragedy I can see is they died far away from home.
Now, the people who put up the orange ribbon said they wanted them to stay up until more than just a, quote, rehearsed apology is offered, and they say the Pope needs to be here in Canada to listen to the experiences of Indigenous peoples. But you can see right now that the orange ribbons have been removed and they're no longer here as of this afternoon. Now, flags have also been lowered at this location here to honor the lives of the 215 children. They will remain lowered for the next 215 hours or 9 days.